Okay. Get the ready. Hello, lovelies. Can I just say hello?
Hello, I miss you.
Hello. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, put your hands in the air and wave them around like you just don't care. All right, all right. Good. Wait for it. Afternoon, everyone. We're going to be getting started very shortly. I know there are folks who are still getting their food, so please continue to get your food. But if you're in the room, let's get settled down, and we're going to start the program in about 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check. Check, check, check.
Test, test. Testing. 3. All right, check. Is this sounds good? Can you people, you sound good in the back? Okay, thank you.
All righty, if you can hear my voice, clap. Clap again. Thank you for clapping, and I would like to welcome you to our 4th annual I Am the Dream Past, Present, Future Award ceremony. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge and thank our virtual viewers that are here virtually. I understand from my team that we have folks from Lebanon to London, England on the viewership today. So thank you for tuning in. This is a special day for our community. And so before we begin, I want to just thank you all not only for attending, but did you enjoy the food that Dr. King enjoyed? Can I get 5 claps for that? All right. I mean, we have to give a shout out to Smoke Show. They're featured on the Food Channel 3 or 4 times a year, and they're located in Concord, New Hampshire, and they are the best Texas authentic barbecue place in the country. So I'm glad that you enjoyed their food. And so before we begin, we're gonna have some opening remarks from Dr. Steve Leach, who in September 15th, was appointed the interim dean for Geisel School of Medicine. Prior to that, he served with distinction as the director of the Dartmouth Cancer Center, where he expanded clinical services. He enhanced research initiatives, and most importantly, deepened the community engagement at DCC. So Dr. Leach, it's a pleasure to have you because last year you were the 2025 Dr. Martin Luther King Legacy Award winner. So thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. McBride. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I want to welcome everyone to our 2026 MLK Jr. Awards ceremony. Thank you for joining us today to honor Dr. King's enduring legacy and to celebrate those among us who are carrying that legacy forward. Each year, this day is an opportunity to reflect on the past and to recommit ourselves to our ongoing work promoting justice, equity, and compassion. And especially this year, when all of what we're doing is no longer embraced by many of our nation's leaders, it's critical to remind ourselves that our efforts to build an ever more just community here at Geisel will ultimately help to build an ever more just, unified, and welcoming nation. And that's why this year's national theme, Building Community and Uniting a Nation, is both timely and deeply resonant. It reminds us that Dr. King's vision of a beloved community was never meant to be symbolic. It was meant to be lived. It was meant to be built through deliberate action, service, and willingness to see one another fully. At Geisel, this vision is more than aspirational. It is embedded in our mission and reflected in the work happening all around us. We see it in our students who lead efforts to improve access to care and build bridges to peers and communities. We see it in our faculty and staff who serve with humility, advocate for equity, and support our communities in ways both seen and unseen. And we see it in our alumni and partners doing extraordinary work across our communities, our country, and the world. Today, we'll honor a number of individuals who exemplify Dr. King's values and remind us that every act of service, either quiet and private or bold and visible, moves us closer to the world that Dr. King imagined. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Dr. Lisa McBride, our wonderful Geisel Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, and our Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, DICE, for leading so many impactful initiatives such as this event, our MLK Day of Service, and the MLK Food is Medicine initiative, which highlights the critical connection between food security and health outcomes here in the Upper Valley. And I want to acknowledge the many community partners who work alongside of us, including those supporting programs in food justice, indigenous health, cancer equity, mental health advocacy, and so much more. And I'm also really proud of the fact that Geisel has once again been recognized by the Health Professions Higher Education Excellence and Distinction Award for the third consecutive year, and this year with the HEED Champion designation. This honor reflects the commitment of so many people in this room who strive to make our Geisel a place where every individual knows that they truly belong at a place like Dartmouth. And it's an acknowledgement that academic excellence and inclusive excellence are truly inseparable, and that our community is strongest when everyone has the opportunity to thrive. In 1966, Dr. King said, "Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhumane." And 60 years later, those words ring just as true today. And it continues to give me hope to see how our Geisel community continues to respond through scholarship, compassion, advocacy, clinical care, and service. Each and every one of you is helping to advance the work that Dr. King began. You are helping to build Dr. King's beloved community, both here at Geisel and beyond. And so once again, thanks to Dr. McBride and the DICE team for putting together this extraordinary program today. And I'm especially looking forward to hearing from our keynote speaker, Dr. Uché Blackstock, whose voice, scholarship, and advocacy continue to shape the national conversation on health equity. So to all of our award recipients, thank you for reminding us that progress is possible and that every one of us can be a force for change, a force for good. And to everyone here in attendance, let the words that we hear today continue to inspire us to act to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, to build community, and to unite a nation. And with that, let me hand things back over to Dr. McBride. Thank you.
Thank you so much, boss. I appreciate that. And with that, we are going to be able to start our program. But those to the right, we'll try to get some chairs for you. This is the biggest crowd that we've ever had for our MLK event. So that's a round of applause already. I know you could have been anywhere, but to be here to celebrate our recipients today is just amazing. And today is with great enthusiasm that we recognize those individuals who have not only strengthened our community across the Dartmouth academic enterprise, but also in the Upper Valley and beyond. It is their endeavors that move us towards what Dr. King visioned in this beloved community, as Dean Leach mentioned. And he talks about the deep interconnectedness that we all have. And I think we've forgotten that we have this deep interconnectedness, which recognizes the fact that we are caught in this inseparable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, is what Dr. King said in August of 1964. And so collectively, not only do we celebrate Dr. King today, but we also recognize our alumnus, Samuel Ford McGill. One of the things that I learned as soon as I got here 4 years ago is the legacy of Samuel Ford McGill. He was a graduate in 1839. He was expelled from the University of Maryland, and just one school said you can come and finish your medical degree. And that was our beloved school that we're sitting at right here. So let's give a shout out to the institution for that. It was a different time in 1839. But Samuel Ford McGill now, it has a legacy, has a lounge dedicated to his service. And we are very appreciative. So this year's theme, we can't take credit for it, Jerome Camry in the DICE office. We are mirroring this year the King Center in Atlanta, Georgia. And the King Center leader, CEO Dr. Bernice King, the youngest daughter of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, she came up with this theme so that we can remember to build community and to unite a nation. And as we would have it, our colleagues across campus are going to be bringing Dr. Bernice King on January 28th next week. I expect you to get your QR code if Jerome puts it up there and show up. And so you can learn about her challenge to all of us in academic medicine, which is to address the health inequities as it relates to food insecurity, to the mental health stigma, to also to the poor health outcomes in our marginalized and our distressed communities that have stemmed from systemic, and I can use the word as our moderator is coming forward because she's the expert, systemic racism is what Dr. King's daughter said just at the beginning of December when she kicked off this, this actual mission or theme for MLK. And so she talks about a year-long commitment to direct actions. It's those small things that we can do within this community to make a difference. She again called on a massive direct action to combat the shocking healthcare inequities, again, in marginalized communities. And I think as a community, we can address this in a few ways. First, as we kick off, as Dean Leach talked about, our hashtag MLK Food is Medicine. It is something that we have been working on, and we began with your partnership. In the DICE office, we brand a sort of strategic approach last year, and it was community plus impact equals partnerships. So some of the people that you see in this room that are not from the Dartmouth academic enterprise, they are our partners. We have about 100 partners that we've been working with in the community. We went all the way to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where we had a breast awareness and prostate awareness session for the community members in partnership with the mayor. So we are taking this hashtag from the Upper Valley to the Seacoast in New Hampshire. So we need your support, and that is very important. The second thing is last year we launched the Free Food app. So we know that food waste is a big deal across the nation. 11.6 million children under 18 live below poverty. And so we recognize that our community also suffers from the same type of insecurity, food insecurity. So the Food Alert app allows people to opt in, and when there's food on campus like today, I know Jerome ordered too much barbecue, we're gonna be texting people saying, food is available for the next 15 to 30 minutes. You don't have to say anything. You can bring your to-go plate and you just take it away. And so it also tracks the food insecurity in our community, and we partner with Hannaford's and other stores to help particularly our students who may be food insecure. So we are taking this initiative serious, and we hope that you join us in doing so. The next thing that we are going to do is to continue our partnership with the University of California, San Diego, so that we can offer Lead with Compassion, which is a unique compassionate communication skill that we initially launched for our students in their first year and now in their fourth year. That training is going to allow every person, student, faculty, and staff, and alumni, to take advantage of that partnership, which, by the way, is exclusive. It is one of the only institutes for empathy and compassion in the country, and they have trained over 25,000 healthcare providers and corporate American folks around the country. And so I've been reading a book, and it's called, it's Dr. King's last book. I suggest someone in the back asked it, you should get this as required reading. But the month or two before Dr. King was sadly assassinated, he went to Jamaica and he wrote a book. How timely was it? It was called, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap for where we're at in this country right now. We have to make the decision. Do we want chaos, or do we want to build a community, and unite a nation? You decide. I think after today, when you hear the great work of our recipients who actually believe in this beloved community. They think that they know, I should say they know, that this is a realistic vision that is acceptable in our community, in our society. And so for the next few minutes, 20, 30 minutes, we're gonna do three things. Can you say three things? We first gonna celebrate. Can you say celebrate? We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna do it like it's, no, I can't say that, okay. It's not 1999, okay. We're also gonna reflect on the legacy and the principles and values of courage, compassion, dignity, and humility by Dr. King, but we're also gonna recognize Dr. Samuel Ford McGill, class of 1839. The last thing we're gonna do is, and this is gonna be to our esteemed health equity scholar, is to be challenged to act and or commit to act so that we can build a community within Geisel, with across Dartmouth's academic enterprise and in the Upper Valley and across the nation, so that we can, in fact, be what we're gonna say later about our recipients. We wanna be drum majors for justice. We don't wanna sit around and be on the sidelines. We wanna be drum majors for justice. So that's our three goals today. Celebrate, reflect, and later, when you leave here, you're gonna be full, but you're gonna act. And so as we get into today's celebratory celebration, I'm gonna ask that my colleague, Elise, come forward. Rosalie Uché. She is not only, I call her a tactician for health equity. She's Johns Hopkins right now, maybe come back soon. Formerly at Geisel, research is in that realm of, now I learned last night, internal structural racism, which hopefully we can talk about a little later in the Q&A. And all of her research stems from the many honors, the honor societies, the E.E. Just Faculty Fellowship, their work with the Robert Wood Johnson. We needed someone that could sort of weave the talents of the recipients to convey what is our next steps as a community. Where do we go from here? Community or chaos? And so I'd ask you to join and you can take over, my friend. Thank you, Dr. Curry.
They didn't cover this in my training. Thank you so much. All right, well, thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. McBride. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's an honor. What is my third year hosting this event? And as Dr. McBride mentioned earlier, it's getting bigger, it's been growing, and I really enjoy being able to share and engage with this in this experience with you all. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Let's honor our honorees, let's celebrate them, and learn about the wonderful things that they are doing. So we're going to begin with a musical selection. Our first artist here is in training here at Geisel, learning to heal people with their hands, but they have been blessed to learn to be able to heal people with their gift of song. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming John. We did this all night last night, and I practiced this morning. I practiced on the treadmill, like I'm gonna get it right when I'm nervous, but I'm gonna try it. Ejiogu. All right, we're gonna welcome John Ejiogu here to the stage. Singing Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come.
Hello. I think this song means as much to me as it means to most of you, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hey, 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 yeah. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like that river I've been running. ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard leaving, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what is up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie, but somebody keeps on telling me, don't you hang around. It's been a a long time coming, but I know change will come. And I go to my brother, and I say, brother, brother, help me, please. But when I go to my brother, oh, he winds up knocking me back on my knees. There's been times that I thought I wouldn't last for long, but somehow I'm still able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change will come. Hey, yeah.
Wasn't that beautiful? Let's give him another round of applause. All right, one more while I learn how to fix the mic. No, I'm joking. All right, well, thank you so much for that wonderful musical rendition. That really just, with the visuals and the images and the beautiful voice, it touched my soul. So we're gonna start today with our first award. It's the Community Champion Award. And today we honor Denise Pulio Sagamoskwa and Paul Pulio Sagamo, respected leaders of the Kawasuk Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. As the head speakers and cultural stewards of their community, Denise and Paul have devoted decades to ensuring that indigenous voices, histories, and health priorities are recognized and respected across New Hampshire and beyond. Through their nonprofit, Kawas North America, they founded the Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective, a partnership that brings together scholars, students, and community members to uncover and share the state's indigenous histories from an indigenous perspective. Their work led to the creation of the Native American and Indigenous Studies minor at the University of New Hampshire. Beyond academia, Denise and Paul have tackled deep health inequities through collaborations that focus on tribal cancer awareness, indigenous-led health models, and public health advocacy. In the spirit of Dr. King's vision of a beloved community, Denise and Paul Pulio embody the principles of justice, equity, and shared humanity. For their tireless advocacy and transformative leadership, we proudly present them with the 2026 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Champion Award.
Kwai Nidobak, hello friends. Paul and I feel deeply honored and humbled to be the first recipients of the Community Champion Award. When Paul and I share what the Indigenous perspective of community truly means, we think about our ancestors and the traditional collaboration, the values they passed down. Families helping families, coming together for the betterment of the community to listen and solve the concerns and health challenges that we face together. Those same principles guide our tribal leadership and the community work and research that INHCC, Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective, does today. We feel that this recognition is not about us. It's about the collective spirit that reflects the countless hours of collaboration, hard work, and dedication of so many people who believe in the power of a healthy community. We want to thank the organizers for shining a light on the importance of community collaboration, to Dartmouth Health for faculty and facility access, and the Geisel for the countless hours of organizing, event planning, and managing student involvement. To every volunteer, the doctors, professors, students, partners, community members, and friends who have listened, learned, and walked this path with us. Olioni, thank you for taking this journey. This is only the beginning, and we're looking forward to helping create a stronger, healthier, and happier community together. We thank you all for this great honor today. Kitsi Olioni, Kitsi Nawas, Taminikwa Daminana, Olido Goangan. We give great thanks to the Creator and to our ancestors. We thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now, the Distinguished Alumni Award. We proudly honor Dr. Aaron Bridges, Dartmouth class of 2015 and Geisel School of Medicine class of 2019, a preventative medicine physician whose career embodies the very heart of Dartmouth's commitment to service, equity, and leadership. From his earliest days on campus, Dr. Briggs dedicated himself to supporting underserved communities to address poverty, housing insecurity, and barriers to healthcare. As a Geisel Medical School student, he launched the Beyond the Books program, preparing future clinicians to deliver compassionate, equitable care to vulnerable populations. Today, as a public health research scientist with the California Department of Public Health's Black Infant Health Program, Dr. Briggs works to reduce maternal and infant health disparities among Black Californians. With humility, passion, and an unwavering belief in justice, Dr. Aaron Briggs exemplifies what it means to be a Dartmouth and Geisel alum. We are honored to celebrate him as this year's Distinguished Alumni Award recipient.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa, Jerome, and the Geisel Dice Office for this honor, award, and privilege. I'm really humbled to be surrounded by such champions of this work today. And thank you very much for this event. My journey and the work I've had the privilege to be a part of is the result of a village that has poured into me. And so I have many thanks to give, and I'd like to start by thanking my mom, who is with us today. For the support and love she's shown me at every step of my journey, and it's been a hell of a journey. And for the example of self-sacrifice and compassion that she has set that I'll spend my life aspiring to live up to. So thank you, Mom. And I'd also like to thank my little brother, who's in the room with us, and my dad, who's joining us virtually, for the anchors of support they've been to me throughout this journey. It really does take a village. And the other part of that village, many of whom are in the room right now with us, are the Dartmouth and Geisel faculty that have served as incredibly powerful mentors to me. So thank you very much for helping me become the doctor that I am now. I think, as has been said, it's very important to acknowledge and celebrate Dr. King's achievements, but also to recognize that many of his dreams remain dreams that have been deferred. Racism, as I don't have to tell anybody, is alive and well in the United States. All we have to do is to look at the rates of maternal mortality in the Black community. that have been tearing families and communities apart for decades now. Thank you, John, for that song. Change gonna come, change needs to come, and all of us in this room have a role in that change. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to our Outstanding Faculty Award. Today we're going to celebrate Dr. Diana M. Rojas Soto, a board-certified vascular neurologist at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center and an extraordinary educator whose career spans more than 20 years of compassionate, patient-centered care, recognized for excellence in stroke care by U.S. News and The World Report. Her students describe her as fierce, kind, and compassionate, a leader who models Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s ideal of service, collaboration, and justice. For her inspiring scholarship, mentorship, and unwavering dedication, we are honored to present Dr. Diana Rojas Soto with this year's Outstanding Faculty Award.
Thank you for this honor. I am extremely honored to receive this award, especially in times of uncertainty like the ones that we live in it. Dr. King reminds us that service is at the heart of excellence. And teaching has been one of my most rewarding and meaningful ways to serve my community. I am constantly inspired by our medical students. Their commitment, their eagerness to care for our patients is truly inspiring. They keep me on my toes. They force me to keep learning and growing along themselves. I'm deeply grateful to my family, my fantastic supporting husband, to my colleagues, to my mentors that had held my hand and kept me here. Thank you, Lisa. And I received this award on behalf of my students. They are the future of our communities and our profession. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have our Student of Merit Award. No, I'm sorry. Next, we have our Outstanding Staff Award. And today, we proudly honor Dr. Oluwatoyin Asojo, an Associate Director for Inclusive Excellence at the Dartmouth Cancer Center, a visionary leader whose work bridges science, mentorship, and social justice. Dr. Asojo leads with purpose and compassion, ensuring that inclusion, equity, and excellence are not just aspirations, but everyday practices at Dartmouth. She has built transformative programs such as Powered, which supports underrepresented students pursuing cancer research careers, and Impact, a mentorship initiative that guides post-baccalaureate researchers on the path towards scientific leadership. Beyond these achievements, Dr. Asojo's influence is deeply personal. Through her work with the Minority Association of Pre-Health Students and the National Society of Black Women in Medicine, she empowers students to overcome self-doubt and realize their potential. For her unwavering commitment to equity, mentorship, and excellence, we are honored to present Dr. Oluwatoyin Asojo with Outstanding Staff Award.
Thank you very much for those kind words. I'm going to first make my thanks in Yoruba before I say anything else. Ẹ ṣé gan ni, mo dúpẹ́ látọkàn mi fún gbogbo èèyàn. Àwọn aráalé mi tó wà lórí Zoom, mo mọ̀ pé ẹ wà ńbẹ̀ yẹn. Wọ́n ti sọ pé èèyàn kan wà ní London, mo mọ̀ pé ìwọ nìyẹn, Bólú. Anyway, Ati Ati ento wangana tongo mila to resume Uché. So thank you to my family that is joining us via Zoom and to all my students that are here. Thank you for recognizing me. The only thing I aim to do is to be a catalyst for success for others. And this is for all the other faculty that serve as and staff and students and everybody else that serves as catalysts to lower the activation energy barrier to success that others may face. I just want to say thank you. I'm humbled.
Our next award is a Student of Merit Award. We celebrate Camilo Casablanco Rivero, a fourth-year PhD candidate in integrative neuroscience at Dartmouth College, whose work beautifully bridges scientific excellence and global equity. Camilo studies how the brain supports memory and cognition with the focus of understanding aging and autism. Under the mentorship of Dr. Krzysztof Berżarski, he is pioneering research that corrects global north biases in brain aging tools by developing more inclusive data sets using Kenyan cohorts, helping ensure that neuroscience reflects the diversity of the world it seeks to serve. Born in Bogota, Colombia, Camilo brings warmth, humility, and a deep sense of purpose to all he does. His faculty describe him as a scholar who advances both science and humanity, exemplifying the ideals of Dr. Martin Luther King. For his brilliance, service, and dedication to equity, we proudly present Camilo Casablanco Rivera with the Student of Merit Award. Unfortunately, Camilo isn't here to join us, but he has prepared a video.
Hi everyone, my name is Camilo Castelblanco and I am very thankful for the DICE office at Geisel for selecting me for the Student of Merit Award. I am also very thankful for everyone coming into the Luncheon. I am the dream, the past, the present, and the future. I am very sorry I couldn't attend in person this morning. I am in London attending a workshop related to my work about aging in Kenya. Through this work, I've learned how important it is to build systems and policies that protect dignity, health, and independence. Receiving this award means a lot to me because it recognizes the service rooted in Dr. King, who championed dignity, justice, and care for the community. I also want to give special thanks to Dr. Karen Blackman, Dr. Thomas Thiessen, and all the group of clinicians and researchers at Aga Khan University and the Brain and Mind Institute in Nairobi, Kenya, who supported this work. Congratulations to all the honorees and thank you again for this incredible honor.
The next award is also a Student of Merit Award, and today we honor Nico Hernandez, a second-year medical student at the Geisel School of Medicine, whose leadership and compassion has profoundly enriched the Dartmouth community. Born and raised in Miami in a proud Cuban household, Nico learned early from his mother that education and service can transform lives. That lessons continues to guide him as he fosters belonging, mentorship, and equity for all. As a co-leader of the Latino Medical Student Association, Nico has built bridges across cultures, organizing vibrant community events like the Latine Caribbean Heritage Month and Cultural Exchange Night. His leadership extends beyond affinity groups. Through Pride MD, DICE, and the Affinity Group Mentorship Program, he has created spaces where every student feels seen, supported, and empowered. Described by his peers as embodying Dr. King's spirit of unity and service, Nico leads with integrity, empathy, and joy. We are proud to present Nicolas Hernandez with this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Student of Merit Award.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I want to deeply thank the DICE office and the selection committee for this honor. I'm very aware that I'm surrounded by so many of my classmates, many of whom have done equally amazing things and are equally deserving of such recognition. I also want to recognize that none of my accomplishments have been accomplished alone. They have been done with the help of my peers, of my friends, of my mentors. And they remind me that progress is not something that we build alone, but rather build together. With that said, I am deeply grateful for this award, but I am all the more grateful for the community that we have here at Dartmouth that has allowed this and made this come into fruition. So thank you.
And if I could invite Dr. Ansley Brooker to join me to present the next awards. So the next award is our Dartmouth Next STEM Award. And today we celebrate Dr. Michael Simoni, a compassionate physician, scientist, and innovator whose life reflects perseverance, purpose, and hope. Raised in South Florida by a single mother working night shifts, Dr. Simoni discovered early that science and service were his calling. Encouraged by a high school teacher to tutor others, he built a foundation in STEM that carried from Dartmouth College to Harvard Medical School, Yale, and the University of Pennsylvania. Today, Dr. Simoni serves as a reproductive endocrinology and infertility specialist at RMA of New Jersey. His work spans from advanced reproductive procedures to groundbreaking research on pregnancy loss and health disparities, ensuring equitable and compassionate care for all families. Beyond the clinic, his leadership in artificial intelligence and reproductive medicine highlights both his commitment to representation and fairness in healthcare innovation. Dr. Simoni's empathy, brilliance, and humanity shines through every patient he supports and every discovery he makes. He carries forward the legacy of Dr. King and Dr. Samuel McGill, dreaming, striving, and healing so that others may create families and futures filled with possibility.
Thank you so much, everybody. Pleasure being here. I'd like to thank the entire Geisel School of Medicine community for the recognition, and I'm deeply honored to be standing here before you today as a recipient of this award. When you're a student here, an undergrad, they replay that speech of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Dartmouth Hall 105 over on repeat all day long. You could just come in, sit down, watch it for a second, leave. So I've seen this many times, and in that speech, he talks about challenging the community to move from being a spectator to being active participants in progress. And I want to thank the Dartmouth and the Upper Valley community for actually taking that challenge to heart and in turn shaping me during my 6 years of living here and my 20 years of memories here as well. This community was my foundation for personal growth. It challenged me to my perspectives, sharpened my purpose, and showed me that true service is actually a collective effort. And so I accept this award not only as an individual achievement, but also as a reflection for the values that the Dartmouth and the Upper Valley community have instilled in me as well. And so for that, thank you very much.
Our next Dartmouth Next STEM Award goes to, today we're gonna honor Alicia Cage, whose leadership, service, and scholarship embodies the values of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and the proud daughter of Jamaican immigrants, Alicia has turned her Dartmouth journey into a platform for empowerment and equity. As a biochemistry and Latino and Caribbean studies major on the pre-med track, she merges science with service, using every opportunity to uplift others. Alicia organized Northern New England's first sickle cell awareness blood drive, where more than half of the donors were Black, addressing an urgent health equity gap. She also chartered the National Panhellenic Council and the National Society of Black Women in Medicine at Dartmouth, cultivating spaces that celebrate Black excellence and belonging on campus. Beyond campus, Alicia's intersectionality project and her work as a crisis text line counselor amplifies marginalized voices and creates safer and more inclusive communities. Resilient, visionary, and purpose-driven, Alicia Cage stands as a beacon for the next generation, translating passion into impact and living out Dr. King's dream through every act of service and leadership. Let's all celebrate our Dartmouth Next STEM Award winner, Alicia Cage.
Good afternoon, Dartmouth faculty, students, staff, and friends. I am deeply honored and humbled to receive the Dartmouth Next STEM Award. My journey began long before I arrived at Dartmouth. It began in my small apartment on Church Avenue in Brooklyn, growing up in an immigrant Caribbean community. I witnessed injustice early, but I also witnessed the power of community, trusted relationships, and patient-centered care, and how they could mean the difference between life and death for those that raised me. It began with my family, who immigrated from Jamaica in pursuit of a better life, with my mother, whose strength taught me to lead with heart, and my father, whose service to this country taught me dedication and commitment. First, I want to thank God for carrying me through my lowest moments and giving me the strength to keep going. I thank my parents for their sacrifices, my mentors, especially Dr. A, and my sorority, the Pi Theta chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, for being my home and village at Dartmouth. I want to thank Dartmouth Next and its executive director, Dr. Ainsley Booker, and my soror for believing in me, advocating for me, and pouring into me. I want to thank the DICE office, especially Jerome and Dr. McBride, and Geisel team for taking me in, uplifting me, and being such great resources for me. Thank you. As I close out my Dartmouth journey, my goal is simple: to leave this community better than I found it, by uplifting those who came after me. To the young woman following behind me, you are enough. No grade, no decision, and no opinion can take away your worth. Push forward. It won't be easy, but it's definitely worth it. We are living Dr. King's dream, and we are evidence that dreams can become a reality. Thank you.
Our next award is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Legacy Award. Join me as we honor Dr. Dean Madden, a visionary scientist, mentor, and leader whose career embodies the ideals of service, inclusion, and excellence that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. championed. From his early days teaching math at a summer boot camp to his current role as Vice Provost for Research and Professor of Biochemistry and Cell Biology at Dartmouth, Dr. Madden has devoted his life to advancing discovery and opening doors for others. He directs both the Cystic Fibrosis Research Center and the Institute of Biomolecular Targeting while leading initiatives that connect medicine, science, and humanity. Described by his colleagues as a visionary leader, Dr. Madden's work reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge carries a moral purpose: to build community, expand opportunity, and serve the world. For his exceptional mentorship, leadership, and unwavering dedication to inclusive excellence, we proudly celebrate our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Legacy Award honoree, Dr. Dean Madden.
Wow, I'm verklempt. I feel, actually, I have to say, when I got the email that I had received this award, it came as a ray of hope in a challenging time that we're all experiencing. I feel that this ceremony is a giant ray of hope, and I hope we can all take new purpose from it. I'm so humbled and honored to be part of this and to have received this award, but mostly I just feel like it's really an award that recognizes the work of the team, because as I look out across the room, I see all of the people who I work with and who have made all of the work that we do together possible. And I also want to say that it's so important to have mentors and champions and collaborators all through your life. And I'm still very grateful for the people who are teaching me every day, who extend grace and compassion when things don't go the way we thought it would, and who have made all of this possible. I also want to thank my wife, who is here with me today, who helps to model community at home, and has built an atmosphere that comes through, because we can't do this if we don't have the personal community. If division is the disease,
compassion is the vaccine and community is the antidote. So I look forward to redoubling our efforts together, and I just again want to say thank you to everybody for this honor. Thanks.
And so our next and last award is a little different tonight, so roll with me. It's the Samuel Ford McGill Award. And why did I say tonight? It's definitely 12:55. Right. So today we honor the Black students at Geisel, or BSG, with the Samuel Ford McGill Award, recognizing their profound commitment to community, equity, and the enduring pursuit of justice in medicine. Named in memory of Dr. Samuel Ford McGill, the first person of African descent to earn a medical degree from a U.S. institution, this award carries the spirit of perseverance and purpose that defined his legacy. Nearly 2 centuries after his graduation from Dartmouth Medical School, BSG continues this work, creating spaces where belonging, mentorship, and advocacy thrive. Through tireless effort, BSG has built networks of support for Black medical students, cultivated rich cultural and educational programs, and inspired transformative change across Geisel community. Their leadership reminds us that representation and community are not just mere ideals. They are essential to excellence in medicine. Like Dr. McGill, the Black students at Geisel have shown that courage, compassion, and collaboration can reshape the institution we inherit into one that honors all those who have come after us. Today, we proudly celebrate their impact and their ongoing legacy of service, leadership, and love. So, please join me in celebrating our honorees. I'm going to call your name. Please come up if we can hold the applause till last so everybody can hear their name called, and we can give them a big round of applause once they've all joined us on the stage. So I'll start with Irene Dankwa Mullen, Ikechukwu Ike Amakiri, Fallon Demsos, Marilyn Ndukwe, Ifoma Kamalu, Sai Lewis, Shaibu Shah Ali, and Trinika Williams.
All right, well, hello, it's so lovely to be back. Trinika and I will kind of just say a couple words. I think first, and it's such an honor to have people from the Abenaki people here with us today in this room, but I do want to do a land acknowledgement and just kind of honor the people who have stewarded this land. It's especially important to do that now in this kind of climate, but to acknowledge the people who have stewarded this land long before we were here and have continued to do so. When we started the project of building this Samuel McGill room space, one thing that kept coming up was if we give a space for Black students, we're going to have to give a space for the LGBTQ plus students and for the Latinx students on campus and all these other students on campus. And that kept being sort of a challenging argument that we kept receiving. And I think the one thing we always said as a whole group, and something that we're hoping to empower everybody to do today, is that's what we want to do. We want to set a precedent so that everyone can start asking for spaces and feel like they belong on this campus. So that's our task to everyone today.
Okay, so I talk too much, as my friends here know, so I typed this out to stay on point. Okay, so thank you guys so much for this honor. My name is Trinika Williams. I'm an emergency physician in Chicago and a 2021 Geisel grad. On behalf of the founding members of Black students at Geisel, we are deeply grateful to receive the Samuel Ford McGill Award. To be recognized in the name of someone who carved a path where one did not previously exist and then used that path in service to others is particularly profoundly meaningful to us and what I believe each of us strives for both in our own and collective ways. BSG started really simply as an effort to make sure that Black medical students didn't have to navigate the journey alone. What grew from that wasn't just a student group, though, but a true community. rooted in care for one another, advocacy for those coming after us, and a belief that belonging isn't a luxury, right? It's a prerequisite for learning, healing, and for excellence. So this work has never really been about recognition, although we really appreciate the recognition. Thank you. It was about showing up, really, for each other, for our patients, for the institution as a whole, and whether that was sometimes quiet, often persistently, but always collectively. So thank you to the members of our respective families and communities back home who served as formative examples of the importance of building and maintaining community. And I would be remiss if I didn't take this moment to give a shout out to my parents as promised. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Daddy. And we accept this award and share it with the students, staff, faculty, alumni, and allies who walked alongside us, and with the current students who continue the work today. So may we all remain committed to building spaces where dignity, humanity, and possibility are not exceptions, but expectations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful honorees. Can we give them one more round of applause? So now we're going to move to the next portion of our afternoon as we gather to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of justice through service and equity. It is fitting that our keynote speaker is a physician, scholar, and advocate who lives that vision every day. Dr. Uché Blackstock's story began at her mother's community clinic in Brooklyn, where she learned that medicine is both science and love, a calling grounded in listening, accountability, and dignity for every patient. Alongside her twin sisters, she made history as one of Harvard Medical School's first Black mother-daughter legacy graduates, continuing the legacy of her late mother, Dr. Dale Blackstock. After nearly 2 decades as an emergency physician, Dr. Blackstock founded Advancing Health Equity, a consulting firm dedicated to transforming healthcare systems so that all communities, not just the privileged few, can thrive. She is also the New York Times bestselling author of Legacy, A Black Physician Reckons with Racism in Medicine, a powerful reflection on family, justice, and the future of care. Named to the Time 100 in Health and featured by Fortune, PBS, and The Washington Post, Dr. Blackstock continues to challenge and inspire health leaders across the country through her voice, her vision, and her unwavering belief in equity as the foundation of healing. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Dr. Uché Blackstock.
Thank you for coming back, Dr. Blackstock. You were here in September of 2023.
Yeah, but can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you for having me back. Yes, I know, I can't believe it's gone by so quickly.
You promised that when you got your book, you would come back.
Yes, I did,
So
I did.
I love when a plan goes right. I know you're extremely busy, so thank you for coming. And I think we should all join in thanking her for coming back to Dartmouth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I thought that we would start off with you reading something from your
Yes,
book.
yeah, definitely. But do you want to tell everyone how we know each other? I feel like that, because...
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, you want me to tell the story?
Sure.
So in 2017, I was working at another institution with my colleague over there, my director, Jerome Wilcox, and we just cold called her out of the blue, emailed, got her on the phone and said, hey, would you like to come and be a speaker at our institution? She's like, where did you get my number from, first of all? And I said, that's the same way we get the Surgeon Generals. We just cold call. But not only did she come to TCU where we were at, but she met with our students. And we were talking, and she says, I'm at NYU, and I'm not happy where I'm at. I think the book is a dedication to that, right? And I said, well, just quit. And she said, what do you mean I can't quit? I got 2 young boys. I can't quit. I said, quit and start your own business. Now today, almost 10 years later, boy, did I give good advice. 10%, Dr. Dr. Blackstock.
10%, 10%, right? Yes, yes. So we go way, way back. And thank you, Dr. McBride. Like, you believed in me during times when I didn't believe in myself. So I always appreciate you. So I'm just going to ground us because I want to read just probably a few minutes from the introduction to Legacy. And I have to say, it's always interesting hearing someone read your bio because you're like, is that me? Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, that's me. But I never thought that I would be a New York Times bestselling author. If you had asked me even 5 years ago if I would have written a book that was a memoir about being a second-generation Black woman physician, I would have thought you were joking. And I will say that it's interesting how when you're in alignment, so we're going off script. When you're in alignment, people will see you doing the work that that gives you purpose. And I'll talk a little bit about it later. But my literary agent, she heard me on a local NPR show in New York City, summer of 2020, when I was doing a lot of health communications work about COVID and racial health inequities. And after that radio interview, she cold emailed me. And she said, I've been following you in social media. I turn on MSNBC, you're always on. And I think you have a story to tell, and you're the only person to tell that story. And then here we are, almost 5 years later. So I always just say that it's very important that you stick to what it gives you purpose, the work that fulfills you, and you will get the recognition and acknowledgments as you go along, but that shouldn't be the end goal. It really is the work. So here goes. When I was a little girl, my twin sister, Oni, and I used to visit our mother at work. Her name was Dr. Dale Gloria Blackstock. And in the 1980s and 90s, she was an attending physician at Kings County Hospital Center, one of the public hospitals affiliated with SUNY Downstate Health Sciences Center in Brooklyn, not far from our home in Crown Heights. Our mother worked very long hours at her job, and so sometimes we'd head to the hospital after school to see her and do our homework. Walking down the disinfectant-scented hallways, our shoes squeaking on the clean floors, we make our way to the large echoing cafeteria where we'd pull out our textbooks from our backpacks and settle down to work alongside the physicians, nurses, technicians, and aides taking a break. The staff behind the counter, they knew us well, especially because we strongly resembled our mother and would smile warmly and ask, "Visiting your mother today?" After homework was done, we'd sneak into her clinic to ask her for some change to spend on our favorite red Jell-O. She'd hand it to us, and if we were quiet, let us stay and observe for a minute or two as she examined a patient. Our mother was warm but serious with those in her care. Occasionally, her face would reveal a smile, but more often than not, she was extremely focused on what they were saying and what was going on in their lives. After all, she'd grown up in the same Brooklyn neighborhood where the hospital was located. The daughter of a single mother from New Jersey, raised on public assistance, she'd become the first person in her family to graduate college. And after graduating from Harvard Medical School in 1976, she returned home to her community. At Kings County SUNY Downstate, she wasn't just taking care of patients, she was tending to her neighbors. In her interactions with them, she always seemed to know as much about their children and families as she did about their respective medical problems. When you came in for a visit with Dr. Blackstock, you weren't only having your blood pressure or cholesterol checked, you were also meeting with someone who was going to assess how your whole being was faring. I believe our mother practiced what is now known as structurally competent and culturally responsive care, which means the entire complex nature of the patient's background and the social context in which they live, work, love, and pray is considered during evaluation. And her patients, they loved her for it. She was always bringing home little gifts from them, a knitted shawl, homemade cookies, or cake, tokens of appreciation. My sister and I were only 19 years old in 1997 when we lost our mother to leukemia, and she was just 47. She died too young, but by then her influence had indelibly rubbed off on us. Our mother's passion for learning, her dogged perseverance, and her commitment to serving her community heavily influenced our own decisions to become physicians. Oni and I both graduated from Harvard University and then attended Harvard Medical School, the school's first Black mother-daughter legacy graduates. Like her, we both went to work with historically underserved populations after graduating. My sister at a hospital in the Bronx, while I went to train at Kings County, SUNY Downstate in Brooklyn, following in our mother's footsteps. In the years since then, I have felt her by my side in so many of my own interactions with patients. Her ability to listen to and truly care continues to be a model for me, and it's something that our patients are crying out for now more than ever. Thank you.
It's amazing. I know we've spent a lot of time, talking about the influence your mom had. And I was just so proud when you made the dedication to your book to her. And what are some of the themes in your book that she's taught you about her values and that has instilled in you?
Yes, so I think of the many things that I learned from my mother, and I also want to say that I'm now 48 years old. I'm 1 year older than my mother was when my mother passed away. And I have to say that when I turned 48, I couldn't believe it because I didn't think that I would get to be older than my mother. And just that, I also didn't recognize that she was so young. Because I was only 19, and that 47 wasn't that old, and that she had her whole life ahead of her. There's so much more that she could have done. But I think what I learned from my mom, and I talk about this in the book, is that my mother and her colleagues were practicing like this care, this like culturally responsive care. They were thinking about what we now call health equity in the 80s and 90s in central Brooklyn. So I talk about how I would be in these rooms. My mother was the president of the local Black physician organization, the NMA chapter in Brooklyn. And so she would bring us into these meetings. My sister and I would sit in the back of the room. And while we didn't know everything that was being discussed, we knew that these were people who cared deeply about community. They talked about organizing community health fairs. They talked about making sure people had follow-up for housing insecurity, making sure people had access to food. So they were talking about all of the same issues that we talk about today, just on a very hyper-local level, but still incredibly impactful. I think the other thing I learned is that, like I said in the intro, my mother could have gone anywhere after Harvard Medical School, and many of her classmates, ended up at, either the Harvard-affiliated hospitals or similar programs after medical school and for residency. But for my mother, she trained at Harlem Hospital. And actually, in those days, there was, in the mid-'70s, there was actually a very strong pipeline of Harvard Medical School to Harlem Hospital. Because actually, that was the time when the school was actually the most diverse, and that was in the wake of MLK's assassination that those diversity efforts had started. And so today there are a lot of my mother's former classmates that I'm still in touch with who, they were so deeply committed to working in our communities that going to Harlem Hospital, training there, and then going to similar communities after that was very important to them. So these are the things that I learned from my mom. And then the other thing is, when I grew up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, in the 80s and 90s, there were Black physicians who lived in that same neighborhood. So even though our neighborhood, was in the 90s, of the crack epidemic, we would find, crack vials in our front yard. I've seen people get shot. There were Black doctors living next door to, just to variety of community members. So we were embedded in the neighborhood, right? Like that was a part of our life. And I think that is what also community is, knowing that even next door, a lot is happening next door. We would hear through the walls. But my mother also was never judgmental and was like, this is a product of the system. Like, this is not an individual issue. This is a problem. This is a systems issue that we're seeing right now.
This is a commercial break from my colleague in the Impact and Belonging. For those online, we do have copies of your New York Times best-selling Legacy for 5 of the next individuals at Dartmouth Health. If they emailed belonging@dartmouthhealth.edu.
Yes.
.org. belonging@hitchcock.org. For the next 5 minutes, you'll get a copy sent to you, signed by our wonderful keynote speaker. So that was a commercial that I plugged. So, Dr. Blackstock, again, your book was so impactful. For Christmas, I decided to read it again alongside Dr. Martin Luther King's book on where we go from here, chaos to community. So if you think about our theme, building community and uniting a nation, how do we get there? Most of the people in this room are leaders. How do they go individually and move in that direction? And how as a leader?
Yeah, and so it's interesting. I want to go back to just like thinking about community because thinking about where I grew up in my neighborhood, and it's interesting because if you've been to Brooklyn recently, it's very much gentrified, and people would say, "Oh, that's where you grew up. Oh, now the neighborhood's really nice." And and to me, it's so triggering because I always loved my neighborhood. And the reason why is because we were a community. Because if there was, in New York City, there's alternate side of the street parking, right? This horrible policy. If you didn't move your car, your neighbor is going to be knocking on your door saying you need to move your car. If it snowed and there was more than a few inches, someone, I don't know who, would come and shovel. Right, and so we knew each other, we knew each other's families, and so that's what I think of community. And so when I think of our healthcare system, though, and community, and people talk about trust, I often say that, unfortunately, for especially our communities, that the trust was never there. So we talk about rebuilding. It's really about building. And I think that what we learned and what we saw, especially during COVID, when there is this sudden catastrophic event, that's not when trust can be built. Right? It has to happen before that. And I think a lot of it is about really thinking about power sharing. And that's something that I think a lot of institutions don't think about, but power sharing with communities. A lot of times the institutions are the ones with the resources, right? But, how are we sharing those resources with our community groups? How are we amplifying the voices of community members? Are they sitting on the boards of our organizations? Is there a community governance model? So, this is not rocket science. Are they involved in developing the health equity metrics for the hospital? Because what a hospital thinks is success may not be what the community thinks is success. And so I think all of that really needs to be very intentional. Right? And it cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be last minute. It can't be something that is siloed either. It has to be really integrated in how systems work.
I'm thinking about when you decided to get a title for your book. You have this title of Reckoning. Wow, that's a powerful subtitle. What does that mean to you? And in the book, you give some examples of when you finally, as a physician, as a young person, begin to grapple with that.
Yes. I think in terms of reckoning, I think of it as not as one moment, but as a process. And for me, when I think about the reckoning that I have done within medicine, it's really about the unlearning and relearning. I think about, and I write about this in the book, kind of, what I learned in medical school, and then what I learned in residency, and how I was like, there's a disconnect, right? Because, to realize that in residency, what I was seeing in terms of the disease and illness in my patients was actually a manifestation of these upstream factors that I was never really taught about in medical school. That I was taught that, yes, maybe the interaction I have in the exam room with my patient is powerful, and yes, that is incredibly impactful. But what's even more so is what's happening on a neighborhood level in my patient's neighborhood, right? And then also, of course, no one's expecting the physician to solve all the problems, but it is definitely our obligation to know what is happening in our patients' communities and what we can do to help connect them to whatever services and resources they need. That I feel that's important, because how else are they going to be able to be healthy? Like how else are they going to be able to pick up their medication if there are no pharmacies, right? Or how are they going to be able to work out if there is no safe place or green space in their neighborhoods? And I think the fact that we know, now that your zip code is more impactful on how long you live or your quality of life than your genetic code, I think that puts even more onus on physicians and other clinicians and healthcare organizations to really be not just doing work in the exam room, but also in our communities. Like, I think about how can we push things further? It's really about, okay, what are institutions doing about housing insecurity, right? Like, what kind of investments are they making into building affordable housing? Right? Because if you are not able to live somewhere safely, if you're not able to accumulate wealth, we know that makes a difference on depending on how healthy you are, right? Like 70 to 80% of what makes someone healthy are systemic factors. It's not me telling someone that you need to exercise more, you need to take this medication, you need to eat better. And so we have a system that really individualizes what care looks like, and that's not an appropriate model for caring for people.
There you go. I'm thinking about my colleague, Dr. Battle.
Did I answer your question? Yes. Did I answer it?
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Sometimes I go off on
Battle,
tangents.
is here, and she is a good champion for the public health students. And one of the things that you talk about is mentorship a lot through your book. Dean Madden talked about that, Dr. Briggs, and you mentioned a lot about not selecting mentors all the time that look like you. And I found in my career, in a very seasoned time in my life, that has been it's done me well to sort of expand what I call my board of governors. So can you talk about, to the students and the young faculty, why that matters?
Yeah, and I talk about this because when I reflect back on my own career, there's so much, I wish I had more mentorship. And the fact is that I was fortunate on some occasions to have that. And I talk about actually the importance of cross-racial mentoring, because there are not enough faculty of color, and it's not fair to put all that pressure on faculty of color to mentor all the students of color. And so when people ask me, like, how can I help? I'm like, you can, it's okay. You don't have to have the same socioeconomic background, racial background, gender as the person that you're mentoring. But the thing is, we know that being mentored properly can be career defining. It can make all of the difference for somebody. And unfortunately, I think that, mentoring has kind of happened very haphazardly, where, people are like, oh, you kind of remind me of myself. Hey, we can go golfing together, or, something, and so they end up, mentoring that person. And really, that's not a fair allocation of resources, right? And because you have to use you're using your privilege, your connections, whatever resources you have to really help support that mentee. But the other thing I also talk to students about is that being a mentee is not a passive role. Like, you have to be, you have to recognize that you are taking up someone else's time who's very, very busy, but that is invested in you. But you should also come prepared with, with questions for them, with dilemmas. You should be the one that's predicting how often you meet, whether it's it's quarterly, reaching out to them. It really goes both ways, and it definitely is not a passive role. And I do think it's important to find mentors in various stages of their career, early, mid, late, because, there are pearls that people learn along the way that they may not have known earlier in the career, that maybe reflecting back later in their career they could share with a student. And so that's why, I talk about the importance of mentoring, the importance of cross-racial mentoring also, because for me, one of my mentors at NYU who really made one of the biggest impact on me was a more senior white woman in another department in internal medicine. She wasn't even in emergency medicine, but she really helped support me during some very difficult times.
Mentorship is different for different individuals, and we recognize where we're located at, and so that's a challenge for our faculty to reach out to our students and our students to do likewise. Before we get to the audience questions, I wanted to sort of just stick with Dr. Martin Luther King. If he would have not been assassinated, he would have been 97 last week. If he was here, and we look at the famous quote of the most shocking and inhumane in his last speech in Chicago at the Medical Committee on Human Rights. He was speaking to health professionals saying that you have lost compassion and empathy for human suffering. And so I'm just wondering from you, as we celebrate his legacy, what do you think as it relates to health equity he would say we're doing good at? Mm-hmm. And what we're doing bad at?
Yes, and I just want to read that because that quote, because I put it in the epigraph of my book, and I had to get permission from the King estate for this. Of all forms of discrimination and inequalities, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhuman. And I also always note, and you saw my social media today, I always like to make sure I tell people that it's inhuman. It's not inhumane. He says inhuman in the quote. And I'm just wondering, from the audience, what would be the difference between inhuman and inhumane? There's a subtle difference.
Anybody?
Don't worry, I'm not grading you on this.
I'm going to be on my Vanna White in a minute as well, Jerome. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. So
No, we got mics going around. Doc, you can have your seat. We got you.
Hi, Shah Ali, PGY3. I'm assuming inhumane would be germane to humanity. Like, what is it to be? It's sort of our behaviors. Whereas the other one, he's saying, you're not even a human.
Like to totally deprive someone of humanity. And I think also inhumane reflects individual cruelty, where inhuman, it's like a system that doesn't even recognize someone as a human being, or doesn't even recognize their humanity. And the rest of that quote is because it often results in physical death. So that was the rest of that quote. And so I think that Dr. King would appreciate that now we are naming these inequities, right? That they do exist, and that it's not just something that's at an individual level, that it's at a systemic level. But I think that he would be so appalled, like I'm sure many of us are, that just with a turn in political tide, that people would just stop really caring about these inequities or stop investing or putting resources in, and that existence of care could be so fragile. I think he would be very disappointed in that.
We would like to take questions from the audience. Anyone have a question for our esteemed guests?
Hello, hi. I'm Natalie Benet. I'm a pathologist here at the medical center. I really enjoyed actually listening to your book, so it was lovely to hear you read it. Thanks for that. One thing that struck me, obviously, is your mother was a sort of through line through the entire book, your entire journey, and I feel like, I don't know you, but your entire life seems to almost be a reflection on her and how she influenced you. But I found your discussion of your grief for your mother to be very profound, and your experience of medical school. It sounds like you can probably draw a line through your medical school journey before, you found out she was ill, and then after. And I had a similar loss with someone in my life who really helped me. And you were talking about mentorship. I mean, your mother was like your original mentor, right? And you probably hear her voice in your head all day. And as a physician, I feel like I've glued together the experiences of all my mentors who helped me, and I hear their voices in my head all day. And when I tell the people who are still around that happens, they're always weirded out by it, right? They're like, I don't know what to say, Natalie, so. But I was just wondering, I assume that you hear your mother's voice or some version of it in your head, and that you sort of talk to her or something like it, and that's one way to get through grief, because grief really never leaves us. What do you think, what does she tell you about what's happening in the world right now? Because I find it as a very unsettling time, and I was just wondering, can we have a little insight into what you think your mom would think about what's going on?
No, thank you so very much for that question. And I literally am an open book. I know I wrote a book, but I literally am an open book. No pun intended. I think of so in the book, yes. So the fact is that when I was 19 and she died, literally, I feel like I've been reeling from that ever since. I have not recovered from that. When you have someone, she was my queen. When you have someone who's been your number one supporter, and not only that, my mother, because she grew up, she grew up in poverty, right? She was always moving from building to building, changing schools. My grandmother, really tried her best, but was also emotionally and physically abusive to my mother and her siblings. And so when my mother knew that she was having my sister and me, she literally made this conscious decision she said, I am going to be a very different mother. And I read a little bit about it in the book, but literally, I feel like my sister and I were her little projects. We would go to the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, and she would show us all the different flowers and what are the different names of the flowers. But everything was a learning experience. She wanted to give us everything that she didn't have, but also she was incredibly loving and affectionate. And I feel like I made this realization over the last few years that a lot of the work that especially I've done since I was able to come into alignment after I left my academic career, and no, I'm not saying you should leave your academic career. That's a whole other story. But when I finally came into alignment and thought about the work that I need to do and the advocacy that I do, it's really in celebration of her, but it's also part of the grieving process, continuing her legacy, right? Continuing the work that she and her colleagues were doing on a local level, but here I have the opportunity. I have a national platform. I can say things that maybe she would have been a little bit more timid to say. I think now she would also be very appalled by everything that's happening. And yes, I talk to her all the time. I always want to make sure that every time I'm on air, every time I write something, even how I interact with my children, she's always there. So, yeah, I know. I mean, I literally probably cry multiple times a week about her because the loss is so incredibly profound. And yes, when you said she was my original mentor, she was, and I felt like I didn't get that. I was pre-med when she died. So I was only, it was after my sophomore year. And so I wanted to be like, Mommy, look at everything I've been able to do. And imagine if she was here, what more I could have done. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
I always say mommy, right? Yes.
This person in you.
Any other questions?
You have two?
Mics are flowing around. Sorry.
There's one in here, one right here.
Hi, hello. My name is Abu Bakr. I'm a postdoc in Dean Madden's lab. Thank you so much for coming. I just had this question, looking at your energy, the work that you've done, and the work that you keep doing. What keeps you motivated, and how do you keep up with the energy and the drive that you still have till today? And I hope it stays strong.
I know. It's always a struggle. So when I think about, this work around, and essentially what the work this is it's making sure that every single person in this country has access to the best care possible, that they can live their fullest lives. Like I think about health inequities as missed birthday parties, missed graduation parties, missed retirement parties, missed time with your loved ones. Like I think about that, and I think about how much people deserve that, right? Like, I mean, when you think about, we call it excess deaths, right? But when you think about the consequences of racism, of poverty, it's a loss of time with your loved ones. And so ultimately, honestly, that's what drives me to continue to do the work. I do have to always make sure that, because I could say yes to everything. I could say yes to everything, but also I've recognized that I cannot be the martyr, one, and two, I really have to take care of myself if I want to continue to be an advocate and a voice and a change maker. And I also want to remind the students and the residents here also that you really have to make sure that you're taking time for yourself as well. That's how you have longevity doing this.
Hi, Don Collish, Family Medicine. I know it's wonderful that we celebrate, but I'd like to shine a light on a problem. When we speak about equity in medical education, we have to recognize that there are fewer black men who are admitted to medical school now than when I was in medical school, at Downstate, by the way. We have to recognize that the wonderful work that was done by the black student group here, as evidenced by those wonderful doctors, some of whom I knew and was honored to learn from. Most of them were from Africa, and we have very fewer descendants of formerly enslaved people representing people of color in medical school. I see this as a huge problem. I suspect you do as well.
Yeah, I write about it in the book. Yeah, I mentioned, yes.
Wonderful. So now I've got to read the book and find out what you recommend.
What do you recommend? What do you recommend? I'm curious.
Well, I had the wonderful experience of being the Associate Dean of Medical Academic Affairs at was then called the Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education,
CUNY,
now is the
yes.
CUNY School of Medicine. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we did is we admitted more black kids. And we recognized that the ability to excel is multifaceted.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Not only includes lived experience, but includes sort of historical and political perspectives that in many ways will yield physicians who will do more for our communities than the wonderful white children of white doctors who come in and become subspecialists. So from my experience at that school, where more than half of our classes were Black and Latinx kids, I know it's possible. I know there are a number of issues around admissions. I know that there are a number of issues around supporting people. When you were at Harvard Medical School, if there were kids who were not as well prepared, at Harvard College, yeah, who were not as well prepared as you were to pass organic chemistry, once they fail organic chemistry at most colleges, they get taken off of the medical school track because their GPAs tank. So I think there are many tactics that we can take, both admissions, pipeline, and then also adjusting what our expectations are. I've had a number of conversations with people here about what does it mean to be in the middle third of GPA and middle third of MCATs. You know, there are some very positive steps that we can take that, to my perspective, we have not had the courage to take to make a difference.
I agree with everything that you've said, and I've written about everything that you've said. And I think that one thing that you said that's really important is the courage piece. Like, we need institutions to have the courage to recognize these issues. I think the issue about the lack of the students that are from descendants of enslaved people, I think is a real issue. I think some people will say that it's divisive, but it's not. It shows what's happened as a result of underinvestment in Black American communities. So I think, and I think the other issue, I think the admissions piece is one issue. I think also the pipeline programs. Like, we need a real investment in pipeline programs. I think private institutions need to be investing in those pipeline programs. It shouldn't be up to just public institutions to do that. And yeah, I think that statistic about how there are even fewer Black men in medicine today than there were in the 1940s, it's appalling. It's horrible. And I think that now, especially in this climate, we're having even more issues talking about it. So I'm glad we're talking about it in this room. But I agree that, AAMC, I know that they have a program regarding the Black male pipeline, but I'm not sure exactly what's happening regarding that. But yeah, there needs to be a concerted, intentional investment. And I think that giving the example of the Sophie Davis program is a model that shows that it actually works. It works if your priorities are really clear in terms of what communities need the best care. Sorry, Shah, yeah.
Hold on, guys.
Can you stand up? I feel like, I'm sorry, I feel like
okay.
people stand
Sorry,
up.
that's a great question. And I mean, one thing I will address about that, because I'm from Harlem and I'm the son of Ghanaian immigrants. So I was born here, went to public school in Harlem. So I kind of like fall in the intersection of that where you're exposed to, like, I guess, a worse school system, but you have parents that might come from a different culture. So I think it's an interesting question. My solution would be, only for the purposes of admissions, you can consider those as two separate tracks, and just so we get more. But for the purposes of, like, don't divide us when it comes down to the conversations about inequity and all the things that impact ultimately health and educational inequality, because it affects us all. But if it's going to mean more admissions,
yeah, but at the same time,
tracks.
but if you're talking about generations that have been in this country that have been chronically disinvested in, versus a family that's come here one generation ago, it's different in terms of, yes, there's an experience, right? There may be a Black experience that you have when you get here, but when you think about those generations of disinvestment, it leaves people at different places. And so I think we need to recognize that.
I wanted to add one group.
Yeah, but also, can you talk about, do you want to share with them just how your parents sent you?
Oh.
Sorry. No, because I feel like that's huge in terms of.
Sure,
okay.
She's right. So I actually met Dr. Blackstock when I was a second-year medical student here. I did the NYU emergency medicine program, and she was still a faculty at NYU. Great. I didn't know you didn't want to be there. You were excellent. You made me.
No. Okay. That's. Okay. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna frame
honestly,
that when you're done.
I almost went into emergency medicine because of her. But ultimately, so when I was 11 years old, growing up in Harlem, you kind of are a product of your environment, as they say. And one of the things is to be just tough. Like, you gotta fight and you gotta defend yourself. My mom saw that as a sign of, a wayward path, for me. So in her mind, she grew up in a very disciplined community in Accra. So she said, let me send my son there and see what happens. So from 11 to 14, spent that time in private school in Ghana, and that's where I would say my whole trajectory changed, right? And it wasn't really, it was more so that I was around people who at that point really valued education, and I wasn't thinking about having the nicest pair of Jordans on. I was thinking about how am I first in my class? How am I second in my class? So it gave me all these tools that when I came back allowed me to then excel here. Also, it helped me know how to behave, like code switch in a way. I know what adults want to see from a young kid, so because my parents are very like that. So it really did give me a language to succeed as well as a work ethic to succeed. But the public school system in Harlem is full of kids like me who could do well. I did want to add one group to what you said. I think a group that we don't talk about a lot is residents. right? So I think medical school is like, I often think about getting in trouble in medical school almost like if you were an underage person, like 18, 19, you get pulled over and you get like a slap on the wrist. Whereas if you get in trouble in residency, it's like you're a full-grown adult who should know better, and all of the weight of the law will be applied to you. So what we're seeing is 20% of resident dismissals, right, specifically in subspecialties like orthopedics, plastics, neurosurgery, are Black residents, whereas the actual percentage of residents in those groups are like 3 to 5%. So disproportionate amount of dismissals. And so what, to me, a question to you is, I think that is a worse problem, because you get people in who are super talented and could be doing anything they want to. They get here, they get some support, they're the best student and all of these things, and then they get to residency where everything becomes very subjective, and then all of a sudden, I don't really know if this guy gets it. I don't really know if this person's a fit. And then there's no language for that person to defend against a system that's never was built for them to succeed in to begin with, right? So, so my question is, how do we solve the problem you mentioned? Like, that's one, but how do we also make sure we're getting people on the other side, right? Not just bringing them in. So.
Yeah, like, how do we get people through the whole pipeline? Yeah. And I think, I'm so glad you brought up residency, because, you know, Stat News, they did a really great piece, I think, over the last few years just about this whole issue. And the fact is, during residency, it's so much more decentralized. You were kind of like alone in your program. You may be floating out at some hospitals, so you don't even have as much protection as you have in medical school. But I do think we have to think about, how do we get our students from, when I think about the pipeline starts like in nursery school. How do we get them all the way even to faculty? And the reason why I talk about faculty, and I have to talk about faculty, is that, you know, my experience where I felt like, you know, I was in a department in one of the largest emergency departments in New York City, you know, very strong academic program, but I was the only Black faculty for most of the time that I was there. There are over 100 faculty in my department. And yes, while my colleagues were very nice to me, I really did overall feel very unsupported and undervalued and underappreciated. And I write about in the book how in 2017, I was appointed to a DEI role at the medical school, and this is public knowledge. And I was so excited about that role. But come to figure out, it was just a figurehead role. And I was just so, I basically was not empowered to do anything in that role. I had all these ideas, and they were all shot down. And I recognized that I wasn't going to be able to get really anything done. And I started thinking, and like, this work is really important to me. Maybe I could do it another way. And that's actually when I founded Advancing Health Equity. So I had never thought, but if you looked at me, I had multiple titles. I had created the ultrasound curriculum for the medical school. I started our ultrasound fellowship in our emergency department. I had done all these things I was so proud of, but for some reason I felt like I forgot who I was. And I forgot that actually we all have gifts to share. I forgot that I had gifts to share. And I think often, sometimes, these environments can do that. And so I made this really tough choice, left a great salary, and said, I'm gonna figure it out. And that was December of 2019. And I wrote my piece in Stat News. I know some of you may have read it about, you know, why Black faculty are leaving academic medicine in January of 2020, and then everything went sideways. And when everything went sideways, I said to myself, well, what can I be in this moment? And I wrote my first op-ed about racial health inequities in the pandemic before the end of March. And it was in Scientific American. Yeah, and that was before, You were my first client, but I'm just saying, actually, I'm just saying that I knew exactly what was gonna happen. I knew which communities were gonna be impacted. I'm like, I have to raise the alarm, even if we don't have the data out yet. And so I became a voice. Like, I just started writing, and then I got asked to be on air on PBS NewsHour, then I became MSNBC medical contributor. But all that to say is that I was like, I need to do something, right? And so I was able to like I found abundance and I found all of these opportunities that I would have never had. So all I'm saying is that, especially for the younger people in the room, and even for the more senior, it really is thinking of like reassessing like your alignment with your environment. Are you able to do the work fully that gives you passion and purpose? And to really always ask yourself that. You know, not just like once a year, but really always consistently ask yourself, you know, am I happy? Am I being treated well? Am I respected? Am I valued for my work? Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Blackstock. I'm not going to stand.
You have such a cute outfit on.
I appreciate that. You know, the question I have for you, and I think it's something a lot of us ended up like, you know, at academic institutions for residency. And of course, when you're there, a lot of the things that you're naming, like we witness as residents, and then it becomes this like challenge when you're getting to the end, like what track are you picking, you know, for where you want your career to go. And I think the thing that always sort of challenges me is I recognize like the need for me in a space, right? And then also the challenge of being able to exist and thrive in that space. And so if you can just talk a little bit about your thought process of sort of, was there ever a time where you were like, maybe it's not NYU, maybe I could come to Dartmouth or come to,
Well,
you know
actually,
what I mean?
I actually got an offer from my alma mater, Harvard Medical School, to be their associate dean of diversity, and I turned that down.
Okay.
After I made the decision to leave, because I said, you know what, I think because when I'm done, I'm done. So I was just like, I'm done. No, but what I want to say is that, wait, sorry, let me go back. Yeah. When I was leaving NYU, I had a lot of grief. I still grieve. I want to tell you, I grieve my academic career. Even though I've been able to do, I've spoken to the United Nations, like on Times list, top 100. I've done a lot of wonderful things, but I grieve the career that I could have had in academic medicine because I really loved it. I loved working with students. I loved doing research, right? I love that. I found that environment so intellectually stimulating. And when I left, I felt most guilty about leaving our students and our trainees, because I said, like, they need me. But then I'm still in touch with all of them, and they said, no, Dr. Blackstock, but you just showed us there are other paths that we can take, that there are other journeys that we can go on. You showed us what else is possible. And so that's why I also feel like very strongly that it's a personal decision. It's deeply personal. I cannot be the martyr. Like, if I get to a point where, you know, I was looking back at pictures of myself and I had dark circles under my eyes and I wasn't eating, like, that's not good, right? So I think we need to think about, like, am I thriving, right? But then also, can I give back as well? And I don't think it has to be like a binary decision, right? I think maybe for a few years you say, I'm gonna stay here because things are working out, and then maybe I'll try something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that you don't have to leave and never come back. Even though I'm not going back. No, I just don't want to work for anyone ever again. I just like working for myself, even though it's really scary.
You are truly a blessing. Thank you for coming back, and also continue to be a legacy. Mommy's looking down. Let's give our keynote a wonderful round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love you.
All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful fireside chat. You really got me thinking about a lot of things. And one of the things that I really love about this event is that we bring together such a diverse group of people who, no matter at what stage in their career, what their interests are, where they feel led to do work, can really make an impact in individuals' lives on a variety of different scales. And so as we move to conclude our event, I want to remind us that our goal is to move to action. It's wonderful to be inspired, to be galvanized, and have this mountaintop experience. Whew, I'm surprised. We come together, we get this whiff of energy from all the folks doing great work, but it doesn't stop here. And so one of the things that we have done for the last couple of years is really talk about the Be Love campaign. And Be Love is a growing movement of courageous acts to achieve justice, which we define based on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. Be Love seeks to strategically define and unleash the true power of love to unite humanity, cultivate true peace, and create the beloved community. The movement has a three-pronged call to action, and it also has a pledge. And I invite you today to do the pledge with me. The words aren't in the program, but we're going to take it old school, a little bit of call and response. Are you ready? So, I acknowledge three things. The violence, oppression, inequity, injustice, and hate in our world has to stop. I have a responsibility and a role to play in creating social change for a more just, humane, equitable, and peaceful world. The decision is mine. Say that again, the decision is mine. From your chest, the decision is mine. There we go. Whether to do nothing in this moment or to have the courage to stand up for justice. And I have made my decision. Starting today, I make a personal choice to be love. I pledge to allow love to drive my thoughts, words, decisions, and actions, and honor the humanity of every individual. I pledge to speak the truth to power in love. I pledge to focus on defeating injustice and not destroying the person. I pledge to support leaders who demonstrate a love for humanity. I pledge to promote unity and refuse to perpetuate or magnify division. I pledge to demonstrate a life of courage, care, and compassion as I boldly confront anything that stands in opposition to love. I know it's a lot, but y'all pledged a lot. So let's go out there, let's do a lot, all right?
And that's going to conclude our event today, but I want to give another round of applause to our recipients. Let's give them a shout out again. I also want to personally thank those who were finalists, and I want you to think about next year and all of you as we move forward in this program. And I just want to give another shout out to Dr. Uché Blackstock. I mean, come on now. Come on, thanks for coming back. It's so hard to book someone as busy as you, so we appreciate it. Let's give our wonderful song, John, give him another round of applause. I think he said a change is coming, so we just got to wait on it and get ready. And so that will conclude it. Have a wonderful evening, rest of your evening. And if you are a recipient, we have custom boxes for your awards, and we're also going to have pictures for you, so you'll have some takes. So in the back, thanks for the video. Our virtual folks from Lebanon to London, cheers.
If all recipients will report to the step and repeat, all recipients with your trophy report to the step. That's it. It's now people talking. Huh? I put it back on, yeah. Recipients with trophies to the step.